Hey y'all, how we doing? I am in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at Grand Slam Collectibles with my dude Nate, which is awesome for a lot of reasons. Number one being that I've been to New York and St. Louis and all these other places, and I'm finally in a place where my accent really blends in. It's beautiful. I can be like, it's real nice. It's a great card. It's real nice.
That's hilarious.
So that is wonderful, but I'm trying to, as you all know with this, collect the stories of the hobby from the great people of the hobby, from the people that move the needle in this hobby and have wonderful influence, but then use that influence correctly. And at least in my opinion, and that's all it is, but I believe that is him, that is our BI crew, that is Andy, it's Ryan, it's Jimmy at Montesee, it's all the people that we've been going to see. And one thing that I had growing up was going into the card shop and hearing the different stories. Like your dad was telling awesome stories to us yesterday about playing Pat Riley in high school and things like that. That you get some of it online, but why not have both, right?
Right.
So the goal is to capture these stories from men like Nate. Now we met kind of online back and forth, and we'd heard each other and all this great stuff. And then all of a sudden one day I get this free card alert. Here comes this Tyler Hero, PJ Washington, the five, which I couldn't believe. I mean, my wife almost had to catch me.
That's awesome.
Falling out of my chair.
Yeah.
And then later on, we wanted to do a deal together, and we met at the Belt Bowl in Charlotte to watch the Cats. That's the other beautiful part of our friendship is we are both big Kentucky fans.
That's a big game.
That was a big game. And we got to meet really quick. I said, can I just come see you? And he agreed to come and talk. So I'm not going to be talking a lot, I promise. I just want to introduce it all right. But I think the first question is you've got this beautiful shop, this great reputation. You got 20,000 plus 22,000 on Facebook following you.
Right.
How did you get here? As an owner of a card shop in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I know that's not what you went to college for, most likely.
Yeah, marketing.
But just to that's the kind of goals. How did you get here? But first, before that, even, what got you into collecting cards?
Okay, and it was 1984. I have a brother that's 5 years older than me, so I was 7. He was 12. My father took me into a gas station, and there were 84 Fleer cello packs there, and I'm sure I earned the money from chores, but I bought a pack of 84 Fleer cello, and I had a Carl Yastrzemski 84 Fleer.
Really?
And when I got home, my brother was wanting that card. So, when you're 7 and your 12-year-old brother, he's never wanted anything you have. All of a sudden, you have something that he wants. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Right.
So from that point on, from 7 until now, I've just had a passion for sports cards, and that was the beginning. Literally, my brother was the seed. My father teaching me how to, earn my money and spend it on something I want to enjoy, and that's literally how it started, right there in a small gas station in Huntington, Tennessee.
Get out. So, was it baseball for you early, or was it baseball? Did you then go like baseball? I know you're a Kentucky football fan, a basketball fan. Did you stay baseball for a while? Because some of us did, and then we branched. Just how did it grow?
Well, for me, it was 84. It was baseball, but then I can remember having 84 Marino, and I remember my brother saying to me, you need to keep these two, and I had Marino and Elway.
Right.
But you got to remember, really, basketball wasn't around until 86, 87 in that time frame.
Right.
So I did mainly baseball, Garbage Pail Kids. I was buying a lot of Garbage Pail Kids.
Absolutely.
And then once it got to 86, I had some Fleer, mainly 88, 89 Fleer basketball. Yeah. But then when the Jordan Beckett came out,
that was it.
Yeah, when the Bo Beckett came out, the Jordan Beckett came out, it was exactly. I was all in with all of it.
So you go from being this collector, you start to branch out, football, baseball, basketball. The hobby starts to take off, of course.
Right.
Those the 85 on, and then it kind of comes down a little bit as soon as the internet starts, everything changes.
Right.
Did your I guess my question is, did your collection, your collecting fire ever dip?
It did when I turned 16 and got a car.
Yeah.
I was chasing girls rather than sports cards. So like 93, 94, 95-ish, those 3 years, I'm not as well versed in 93, 94, 95
Right.
because I really wasn't fooling with it. But then when I got back into college, when I came to MTSU, I started in 97 and I've been in it ever since. I mean, I've seen some crazy things in this
Right.
35 years. But yeah, that's really the only considerable amount of time when I really wasn't keeping up with what was going on at that moment.
So, side note, knowing that you did that, I just wondered when you were seeing like LeBron stuff come and the autos come, did like, I guess, what's the craziest thing you remember about those early, before we got to this big spike that we're
Right.
in now? Do you remember like hitting like,
I remember I opened a case of 0304 Exquisite in Chicago at the Sun Times show. I opened that. It was $1,500. It was $500 a box. I did not hit a single card that would move the needle now. I mean,
right,
I think Chris Bosh notable nameplate, but that was a big moment in sports cards.
right,
A $500 pack of cards was just not anywhere near what anything else was. And it was like people thought you were crazy.
yeah,
They literally thought you were crazy.
oh yeah,
If somebody had been so crazy to buy a $1,500 case, kept
Right.
it now, what is it, like 60, 70, 80,000?
all day,
Yeah,
like
so-
easily,
So, that sticks out to me as the exquisite. I can remember him being there. When LeBron came out, to me, it wasn't anything like what it is with Zion.
that's kind of what I was gonna
Yeah,
lead to.
it's not there. Right now, we're dealing with something that it's like every 12-year-old kid that was in 1989
Right,
is now 40,
right,
and he's got money to spend.
disposable income,
Why buy Wells Fargo stock when anybody who's bought big key cards
yes.
in the last 5 years has made more money than any stock would
So
deliver.
what the Forbes article said, it says the S&P 500 came in, the top 100 baseball cards beat the S&P 500 by 165% over the last decade, not a 1 year thing.
And that's not even because in the last 2 or 3 years it's been phenomenal. So that's what's happening in my opinion. I think there's a 5-year window here where every card shop owner and every breaker has a responsibility that to take this opportunity and plant seeds,
Right.
for the kid to get kids back into it, because these 40-year-old guys, they have kids,
Right.
So it's our job
Right.
to give free packs out, talk to them, treat them the way we wish we'd have been treated when we went into those card shops back in the day. I was never given as much as a top loader,
Right.
So what it's our job to do in this 5-year window is, if we're wanting something to last for 50, 60 years for the people behind us, is we have to take this opportunity that we have and plant those seeds, is the way I feel about it.
So that brings up a lot of questions I've got in my head. Because, again, I kind of feel like it's like sitting around the card shop talking. One, why 5-year window?
Well, I feel like in 1985, 84,
Right.
cards that's when it really exploded.
Right.
And then I feel like around 1990 is when it kind of got off the rails.
Right.
In 91, when Stadium Club came out and it was $5 a pack, that was when people started they were getting
Right.
jaded. And it's going to be, you see it now. Guys are like, oh, Prism's $650 a box. They
Right.
get that feeling. But the difference is, in a 91 Stadium Club pack, you couldn't get a $30,000 card.
Correct.
So, I just feel like it's history repeating itself. But
Right.
we have this opportunity now with social media.
Yes.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit
Right.
as far as I'm concerned with social media. But we still have this window where we need to foster and grow the community.
I believe that.
So
Obviously,
and then
power
over
here.
time, my son, if his son has cards,
Right.
but that's really up to all the card shop owners, the breakers. They have to do their part, or
Right.
it'll die off like anything else, somewhat.
So that kind of leads me into what we were talking about a little bit off camera, and I'm all over the place, so sorry, but we were talking about it a little bit, and I want to get into what your philosophy is of this shop. I feel like every shop has a philosophy. I was an old
Right.
teacher. I feel like every teacher has kind of how they run their classroom.
Right.
And you have your favorite teachers and your terrible teachers. But before I get to, you can actually merge it into this, but we were talking about the old shop owners, the
Right.
super old 30-year, 40-year ones, and some are great, but
Right.
and then that transitioned into a heavy breaker culture. You say we have this responsibility. So what do you see as that relationship and what you just hear on the street and your just philosophy about the breakers, about the old shops, about the merging of the two? Just riff on that.
Okay. I feel like, obviously this isn't in absolutes. This is, I feel like the majority when I speak, but the majority of car shop owners that, let's say they've been open 20, 30 years, they obviously have a passion for what they're doing or they wouldn't be open. They've been open during the toughest times in sports cards and they've made it. But a lot of them will feel like breaker. I'll hear them talk. First it was eBay was the downfall of card shops. And then it became breakers. And I feel like those guys, they have it completely backwards. One, eBay has been a blessing for any card shop that has any sense on how to handle things on eBay. Two, breakers are 100%, without a doubt, in my opinion, how these card shops are doing the numbers that they're doing now. And I don't mean every little guy that opens up a box of cards. I mean, Cards Infinity. I mean, Firehand. Those guys in 09, 10 that all of us were watching and saying, hey, man, I want to do that one day.
Right.
They, like, for instance, if Cards Infinity is in North Carolina.
My old local card shop.
Exactly.
Shout out to Chris, my dude.
If he's in North Carolina and he's got a customer that's watching from Albuquerque, guess what? The Albuquerque, New Mexico local card shop is going to get a new customer because of Chris. It's as simple as that. So instead of giving Chris a hard time, what you probably should do is send Chris a Christmas card and a thank you. Because, there's people that come through my doors and say, hey, I'm a customer of X. And, I Googled you and there you were. So it's as simple as that. It's all of us working together in a network. It's the way I feel about it, is that instead of giving someone a hard time because of whatever reason, a lot of these big breakers are putting money in the older guy's pocket.
Oh, you're good.
Panini's about ready to go live with Crown, so that's what.
Oh, if you need to go do that.
No. But I feel like the breaker probably got a raw deal with the card shop owner, and I feel like I can speak on it because I'm both. I have a card shop, a brick and mortar store it's been open almost 4 years, and I've been a breaker, and 90% of my business is online. Right. So I believe that these online guys probably saved a lot of the brick and mortars. If you look in the past 5 years, there were no card shops opening 3 to 8 years ago. Right. Now, if you go on Facebook, there's a local card shop opening quite a bit.
There are 4 in Louisville where we just came from, and a couple in Lexington, and obviously a lot around here. But and I think one thing that you touch on is great is like we talked about earlier too is like why not do both?
Right.
If you have the brick and mortar shop and you've got every card shop I've ever been on has inventory sitting somewhere.
Right.
Like somebody will buy it if you do well. Like you got the 20 or 30 years buying boxes, buying wax. It's what you said. It's like you got to get off your ass and work. Go to work.
I know. Yeah, if you got to have a passion for it, and that's the same as if we're talking about card shop owners or we're talking about guys who own McDonald's. There's going to be the worst McDonald's owner and there's going to be the best McDonald's owner, and it's. I guarantee you, the guy at the top is the one who works the hardest, treats his customers properly, his employees properly, and the guy that down at the bottom is negative, complaining about his competitor, making excuses why he's not better than his competitor.
Right.
So. At the end of the day, if you're a card shop owner right now, you have this wonderful opportunity. And my advice is you better seize that opportunity because it's not going to be like this forever. We're not going to have a Zion every year and a Ja every year.
Like next year.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is not going to come along we have a couple of good football years, Burrow and Lawrence. But, this is something that I never dreamed that this would happen. It never crossed my mind that cards would be the way they are again. And
so what did you do before this?
I've been a real estate agent for probably, 13, 14 years. I have my license. It literally popped up on my Facebook that 2 years ago today, I retired my license. So I ran the store for about a year and a half. I think a lot of people, they want to go from letter A to Z. They don't realize that I worked as a real estate agent for 2 years while I owned the store. And I built up, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, let's do this.
Right.
Everybody hears the good, but you got to understand that there's going to be some heartache. There was a day where we sold $1. We sold $1.
Right.
And I paid a man to work that day.
Right.
So Gary hit me for like $70 or $80, and
right.
I got $1.
Hey, there we go.
So it's one of those things. There's a lot of guys out there getting started, and I feel like, hey man, don't lose faith. But you got to understand that it's not. It's kind of like Facebook timeline.
Right.
Not everything is as it seems.
Correct.
You're going to see the highlights, not the lower. The times they're good.
Right.
Those obstacles are good for us. They give us an opportunity to build confidence in ourselves.
Correct.
To prove that we can do something. And I just have a passion for sports cards, so this is what I'm doing.
I understand it well. All right, hold on, pause. Your mailman was trying to come up.
Okay.
So that really kind of leads me into what you're talking about, which I love to hear, is this responsibility, which I feel too, just as I'm the guy that you said, talking about the middle-aged guy that now has disposable income, and I can go back and get the cards that I always dreamed of. That is me in a nutshell.
Right.
A little bit that's funny was to talk about the work part, and people don't see that. People always ask me, did you hit a lottery or did you get an inheritance? No, I worked really hard, and this is what I spend my money on. Good God, it's not that instantaneous. I spent 30 years working really hard, and now I get to do this. But now I can afford to come do this. Let's tell the story. So I feel the responsibility. Let's teach the young guys. Who's the Nate 2.0 out there watching right now? Let's go. That's my dream. You didn't have somebody that you could look at on YouTube and be like, oh, so that's about it. Like you said, a month before you open your doors, you didn't know about allocations.
I did not know about allocations.
So let's go tell people about that. But what that gets me kind of going down the path of, you were in real estate for 13 years, and then you got to the point where you said, I'm going to retire my license, and I'm going to open my card shop. When did you, what was that decision like? Because every shop owner, there's no baseball card major, right, in college, right? That's a hard decision for anybody. And even I had to make it in this. I'm going to quit my job and go around the country and do this. What made you say, I can do this, I'm going to do this?
Well, I probably need to back up, because this is something that you don't even really know about. I mean, it wouldn't come up. But when I was in college, the first go around, I was selling on eBay. I had an office on the Court Square up there. I had a couple showcases. I had my big computer, and I sold. I mean, I was doing it to make a living. I was hustling cards. I was flying to the National, trying to. I mean, it was tough. But what happened was I did that for several years, but Diana got pregnant with the twins. Right. So all of a sudden, she's a lawyer. I'm self-employed, insurance, all these things. I mean, I was going to need a lot of money at that point. So those doors, eventually I was like, look, I have to go do something else to make enough. So, I mean, I was making some money, but I wasn't making enough money. So essentially, 20 years ago, I did exactly the same thing, but I failed. Or the way I look at it, I failed. So I went, what I did was I closed the card store, or not a card, it was an office where I was doing eBay. I had customers that would come in. But so from that moment on, there was always this fire that I'm big about correcting.
I had no idea about this.
Yeah, I have a big thing about correcting wrongs, doing, that was my passion then. It never died. And I never let that dream extinguish because of that failure. That failure, the lessons I learned in that couple years doing that were a tremendous value in this go around.
I bet.
Because I just learned a lot of things. Like I said, I don't want to go into great detail about these things, but you learn. I learned, I matured. So it was almost a God thing, because that failure, and then that whole 20 years I sold, I traveled, I went to car shows. This isn't something that happened overnight. It was this 20 years where, I've heard, Les Thomas talk about the Chinese bamboo tree
Right.
and how
That's what my man David used to talk about at Seagulls, the bamboo tree analogy. Tell that story.
The Chinese bamboo tree is literally my card store is the way I look at it. And the Chinese bamboo tree is a tree that when you plant it, you have to water it, and it needs to get sunlight for like 5 years before it sprouts. And if you don't do that at any point in time, the tree will die. But if you do it properly, these small things day in and day out, when it sprouts, it grows like 90 feet in 6 months. So people ask, did it take the tree 6 months to grow 90 feet, or did it take the tree 5 years and 6 months? Well, it took it the 5 years and 6 months, just because you can't see the result. If you're wanting to be a card shop owner and you went to a card show this weekend and you went and bought a Griffey for $20 and you sold it for $40 on eBay this weekend, that's a positive step forward in what you're wanting to do. You can't try to compare yourself with the biggest guys and get discouraged. You have to take small steps, and it's every day a little bit of knowledge. Go on Instagram, study what things are worth, all these things. But that's how the Chinese bamboo tree is literally how I feel. And then what happened was people are seeing this 90-foot climb from me all of a sudden, and they're thinking, well, how did this happen? Well, it didn't happen because I turned on a Facebook post and said, hey, watch me bust some cards. It was all of these things over the time, and then it was just this. Now, I was lucky. It was a perfect storm.
Right.
But when the opportunity arose, I didn't waste my moment. I felt like I seized my moment, and then the rest is history.
Well, you had done the watering and the sunlight and all that beforehand, so when the moment the clouds cleared, you were ready.
I was ready. And I mean, that failure, I knew, like when I opened my small store, the day I opened, I had $4,300 in the bank. That's what I had. $4,300, and it was not, hey, this can take a year, but I'm saying that because I don't want someone to think they have to have this tremendous amount of, that what they need is passion, and they need to feel like there's no other option. Burn all the boats. If you're going to take the island, like Tony Robbins said, burn all the boats and go do it. And
passion and patience.
Yes. And
that fire.
You got to have it. If you don't have, you need to find out what you're passionate about and then do whatever that is. But if it's cards, you need to do cards.
And on a collector's level, I think it's very similar, where I'll have a lot of people say, well, how did you get that collection? Tell me how you got that collection. It was 30 years. Like, I couldn't afford to buy a case of Prism in college or the 10 years after college.
Right.
And it's that same thing. It's like, but if I am passionate about Kentucky basketball, so for 10 years, the only thing I could afford was Press Pass, Collector's Edge, Scoreboard. But dadgummit, I am going to have all those, and I'll grind that out. And then people will be like, man, I see that you love that here. I want to give you this. Or here. And then you're like, well, I want to treat people like that and give back. It's the same thing for the people that don't want to be shoppers or just collectors. You just are passionate and patient, and you work your way up. And then when the opportunity opens, you jump.
That's exactly right.
There's a great Steve Harvey video.
He's the man, too.
I love him on Family Feud during a break talking about jumping. And
just jump.
You just jump.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing with this. Like, just jump. That's what you did.
100%.
I love that. So it's really cool that when we were at camp and teaching counselors and kids, always been a passion of mine, David would always use the bamboo analogy for the kids you were pouring into. And I think that's my card story too. I think that's probably a lot.
Yeah.
So the philosophy, like, clearly you're a thoughtful man about this. You're passionate about this. You built this card empire in a way, and you've got money rolling in now. That part's rolling. But what's your philosophy around how you run your shop? You talk about giving top loaders and packs. Like, what is that, and why do you do it? You touched on it some, but that training up the next generation and so on.
I just think that's one of the biggest components in sports cards that was lacking. Like, if you're in business and you're going to go hang out with some guys, you're going to pay for the round of golf because you're trying to earn their business, or you're going to take them out to dinner. And card shop owners felt like whatever I give away, I'm giving away, and I treat it just like I try to think if I hit a $500 card in a card shop and that man had given me a magnetic, I would have imprinted. That would have imprinted
Right.
on me like, hey, I want to do business with this guy. So I'm the average card collector. So what I want is what my customers are going to want 9
Right.
times out of 10. So I just felt like from the get-go, I mean, it's a little bit harder when you're first getting started to just hand everything out. But
Right.
what I would give away, and man, it's come back tenfold.
Tenfold.
It does. So I mean, I can vouch for that part of it. That if you're giving for the right reasons, and you're not saying, "Hey, let me give this to Jimmy, so Jimmy will give me this." If you're giving it to Jimmy because he's a legit Kentucky collector, and you just want to see him happy, it's going to come back. You know, if you're the guy that's like trying to take advantage, man, it seems the universe normally catches up with you.
I agree with that. It's interesting. I always call that the forced trade. When people are like, I'm going to give you this. Now, yeah, I really like Jason Tatum.
Exactly.
And you're like, wait, dude, like, I don't. But the ones that, like, you can tell. You can just tell when somebody's like, I really just think this will make you happy. I've always been try to do that. I brought cards in for Austin today.
Yep.
Like, and you're like that too. And I think it always comes back tenfold. And it's not always in cards or money.
Right.
It's an experience, and it's in a friendship, or it's different.
Right. Yeah.
That work that way. And that kind of leads me into, I want to hear the story on the Allen and Ginter card. So, my man Nate here actually has his own baseball card in Allen and Ginter. A lot of you know this, but for the new people that don't know, if you go last year's Allen and Ginter, there's a card of you in the back that talks about your shop in Murfreesboro, and I love it. I think it's so cool. And you've got a little thing you do in the shop too, but just take your time and tell the whole Allen and Ginter card story.
The whole Allen and Ginter card.
If I read a card, I would just pass out
Right.
dead. I'd break the table, like right down, and like flip up. It'd be unbelievable.
Right. How that happened, and we really don't talk about this a whole lot because we don't want people in this situation. We try to do right, but in this situation, this was a marketing decision I made for our store.
Right.
But we were at the Topps convention last year, and
It's smart business.
yeah.
So go ahead.
We were at the Topps conference, and there was a breaker that had passed away in a mass shooting in Illinois, Aurora, Illinois, I believe is the city. But he was a breaker, a part-time breaker. He worked at his factory, and him and like 4 other people were murdered. So Topps was raising money for this guy's son, and so they put 5 things up on the board. I'm pretty sure it was the night before. And it was several nice cards, but the 5th one was your own Ginter card. And I knew Blowout was there. I was like, so I went home. I went upstairs. First thing I did was I called my employees,
Right.
Because this is their livelihood too. Like
Correct.
Some of the decisions, I'm not saying that it's a complete democracy, but I will listen to what they have to say if they think it's a good idea or
Good owner.
Yeah, so I talked to them, and they both collect Ginter every year, so they're like, "Oh, do whatever, get it, no matter what, go
Let's do
for it."
it.
Yeah, they were all in me donating the store's money. So I just made up my mind. I was like, you know what? I was like, whatever Blowout puts down, I'm going to keep going. I was like, whatever the number is. I just had made up my mind, and again, I don't want people to think, oh, this was a win-win. His son. So what we did was we went toe-to-toe with several different ones, and I just kept going. And then I got
knew it was going to a good thing.
100% that. But I did. But I'm just being honest. A lot of people will say probably, I'm just telling you, ever since I was 7,
Right.
I wanted my own baseball card.
Who doesn't?
Who
doesn't?
The worst kid on his little league team got his baseball card. Like, if that doesn't show you that anything is possible, I was literally there were games where there were only 10 kids. When my first year of little league,
Right.
I was the one kid in the dugout.
I
got my card.
I had more pouches of Big League Chew than hits. I can tell you that right now. No question.
Oh man, tough, humbling times though.
Yes.
Sitting in that dugout by yourself is humbling. Your parents are up there. Your brother's up there. You're the worst kid on the field. But it builds character. It taught me that, hey, I don't like this feeling. If you want to be a good baseball player, put in the work.
Right.
I didn't really want to be a great baseball player.
So what do you do in the shop with the card? I've heard about this where like if somebody pulls.
Oh yeah. Well, we did it online. We ended up selling over 140 cases of Ginter. So We sold 140 cases of it, and then what we did was we had a bounty, and it got up. If you pulled a blue one, it was $2,500. We'd buy it for $2,500. We had 4 people hit the blue.
That's so cool.
I know. And then we had the red, and it started at about 5,000, and it went all the way up to 25,000, and it's never been hit.
And that, I think that's such. I love how you daisy chain cool things into more cool things. I think that's a wonderful talent that you have. Which that's speaking of things being pulled in the shop. I love asking these questions of everybody I interview.
Right.
So you've been in this location for what, about 2 years? You said
almost 2 years.
And you were in another one for how long?
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've seen a customer hit in the shop?
In the actual physical store.
In the physical store, and then we'll do outside the store.
Okay, we had a little kid. I called him Batman. He hasn't come in lately, but him and his dad come in, and the first time I met him, he was wearing a bat, so I just called him Batman.
Right.
He hit out of tier 1. He hit the Roger. Was it Roger? It was Roger Maris bat cut 101 out of tier 1. That's a big one.
Did his dad faint? Did he faint?
Yeah, he was pretty big. We've had some monster pulls, but I kind of get confused on what's online and what's in the. Oh, you're okay. What's in store and what's online.
Well, what are some online? Anything. The biggest hit.
The Zion Williamson 101 Championship Contenders ticket. Yeah,
tell them who like that, baby.
Zach one night he just bought a box of Contenders, and anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Zion fan. I've been talking about him for about 3 years because of Kentucky. He was a Kentucky recruit, so I followed him.
I was at that game, unfortunately, his first game in college, when they beat us by 6,000 or 7,000 points.
That was the night I knew. I was like, that guy's going to be the one. So he hit. So the other night, we're busting boxes, and I see the Zion Williamson autograph, and we already own the other 101. And I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if it's the other 101? And I flip it over, and there it is. And I'm like, we hit the 101. So
what did you do? Like, what's the reaction?
That one's nuts. Yeah, that's probably the biggest reaction they've ever got. I mean, I'm an entertainer when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
Some people hate it. Some people love it. But with that one, there's a video out there on YouTube, about a minute video of me pulling that card. And it's if you like that type of stuff, it's out there. And it was one of those moments because I feel like we've opened so much product, and we were due. One of our customers was, I mean, to me, $30, $40,000, $50,000 is life-changing money.
Yes.
So, somebody can take that kind of money and open a card shop. Like that's what they want to do. You're one pack away from literally opening your store. So
it's a great way to look at it.
I felt like we were due that. We had opened a lot, and I felt like we were doing. And it was I literally had that thought. I was like, we're due something that's monstrous. And then boom, it happened. And me and him talked. We made him an offer. Within 24 hours, he accepted it. We overnighted the check, and it's ours. It's ours.
That thing is, I've seen him. He brought him out, and I was looking at him. I was like, I'm not. I've handled big cards, but I was actually a little nervous. Like, I was like, I think you should take these back. Like, 2 Zion 101s in my hands. I was like, I am too clumsy. I mean, I just spilled the drink. Like, I was nervous. What about, one thing about brick and mortar shops is, I definitely know this from my friends that run shops and people are always coming in like with their like dad's 87 tops, and they're like, is this worth $1 million? And you're like, no. Like, but every once in a while, somebody brings something in, and I've seen some crazy ones. Like Andy at Indy Card Exchange had a letter from Cy Berger, the owner of Topps, from 1953, written to a lady who had complained that Stan Musial wasn't in the set. And he wrote that, and he went back and pulled it out. I was like, I'll never sell this. And it was awesome. And then Jameel Mealy Pops down in Gainesville had one of the only pictures of Honus Wagner, a person brought in the shop, and he bought it, in a basketball uniform in college at Holy Cross. Like, stuff like that. Do you have anything like that? Or a card, like you open a shoebox, it's kind of musty, and it's like, oh, lady, you have a Hank Aaron rookie.
I mean, there's a couple, nothing to that magnitude. There's two things that come to mind. One, there was a lady, her dad had passed away a couple years earlier when we first opened, and he had collected through the mail autographs for probably 30 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you name him, I mean, I had Roger Maris, DiMaggio, anybody that lived, that was a baseball figure from like 60 to 90
Right.
that was alive during that window,
Right.
I had. And I mean, on a card, the only one that came back that wasn't real was Hank Aaron. And I still wonder, I think it probably was signed by Hank, but, you know, he did it all through the mail or at the parks.
Wow.
So that one, it just like, she just wanted to go to somebody that would find good homes for the cards because it was important
Perfect
to her
guy
dad.
to talk to.
And I'll tell you a really cool story that's going to blow you away that doesn't have anything to do with sports, but our best customer was named Tim.
Right.
And when I first opened, literally Tim is the foundation for the store. Without Tim, we would have had a whole lot harder time.
See, that's so cool.
Best customer, nicest guy, very giving. If he saw a kid that came in the store, he'd buy him something.
Yes.
One of the nicest guys ever that you ever meet. July 5th, me and him and another buddy are sitting around the table. We all go our separate ways. Tim dies in a car crash going home to Nashville. Me and my buddy, for whatever reason, we don't, you know, it's just, there's three guys sitting at a table. One passes away, two don't.
That's unbelievable.
So he passes away. And of course, a lot of us, you know, that we really did care about him, it was sad, you know. Well, about 6 months, a year later, a guy comes walking into my store, and I know from his cards that they're Tim's. I'm like, it was all of his, it wasn't his real good stuff, but I knew Tim, I knew his card.
You knew his PC.
So I opened it up and I said, hey, where'd you get these? And he's like, I got them from somebody that was cleaning out dumpsters. And I said, do you have any more of it? And he was like, no. He's like, but man, I'm going to tell you something. I've got binders and binders of this guy, pictures of him, like his personal pictures. He had no family. His mother and father died. He lived by himself.
Really?
And so he's like, I've been hauling all these pictures around, feeling like I needed to keep them for somebody. So it's Tim. Like I have hundreds and hundreds of pictures of Tim, like where he was this huge country music fan. He would go to Opryland all the time. He lived right down the street from Opryland. But, you know, you're kind of hurting. It's the only person I've never in my entire life ever had anybody bring personal pictures into the store. I'm thousands of people who come through here.
Right.
And the one guy that's hanging up above, this guy, and he's like, I don't want to charge you for these. He came in the other day and he's like, hey man, remember me? And I'm like, yeah. But that is the most, will blow you away. Like to me, if you'd have said you can have a letter from Cy Burger.
Right.
Or you could have those pictures, I'd rather have the pictures. So it's, to me, that's what's most important to me. That's the craziest thing. The odds are a gazillion to one that something like that would happen. But I mean, I have like that's where
truest PC.
The country singers would write to Tim. Like he loved Carrie Underwood.
Right.
I have pictures where to Tim, thanks for the support. Like
that's
all
unbelievable.
I got them all. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I could see Tim at a time in his life where, like, I didn't know him. He was 20 years younger. So I could see Tim. Like, I got to see Tim through years that I never knew Tim. So it's really cool. That's my favorite walk-in.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, that's the truest PC.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
It shows your heart and what this place is about and what you're about. And it's why you're so successful.
Right.
In my opinion. It is. I guess the last, I've got just two more. One is, what is it that you yourself collect and love? Like that you're not, like you've got things in your collection because you started that way that, like, man, not for sale.
Right.
And just some of the top ones that you like, not going anywhere.
Right. I think, like for me and you both, we have, first off, when it comes to your personal collection, I think when you're a young guy or a young adult, you have kids and you have these things that are so important to you and you have to sell them because rent is due or your car payment's due.
Yes.
And you sell them and you feel sad about it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things to remind the young guys of that are watching this is, take it from us, selling it is not fun, but when you're able to work hard and get it back,
It's such a cool feeling.
It's an unbelievable feeling to find something that was yours that you had to sell to do the right thing, and then you're able to make that comeback. So, to answer your question, Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman is my favorite, human being that ever walked the planet, as far as I'm concerned, other than my father. Kobe, obviously, was my favorite basketball player. I collect Carson Wentz because of the way he treated a young kid named Lucas. He still wears his wristband. So, I really have a lot of respect for Carson Wentz because of that. Joey Votto, when I was having a tough time back in 2010, was his MVP year. I was struggling. A lot of people think that everything's great, but we all have problems.
We all go through it.
And Joey Votto, that year helped me a lot. I went back to school. I was going back to school at a pretty low time.
Yeah.
And that year he kept me somewhat in a good frame of mind. So I have Joey Votto is the other one. Other than that, I don't really collect anything.
Character guys.
Yeah, Wentz, Votto, Tillman, Kobe are the four that I really, really, really collect. Some Wildcats, here and there. Tyler Eulis.
Tyler Eulis, man.
My favorite. Tyler Eulis, if you're out there, you're my favorite Kentucky basketball player. But, there's some cards that I'll keep because it doesn't have anything to do with the player. It'll have to do with who gave it to me. Or there's a moment.
Preach that all the time.
Yeah. So, that's really it. But I had to sell. I can't tell you how many Michael Jordan rookies I had to sell that I never wanted to sell to make ends meet. And, you do that enough, and eventually, if you keep working hard, it'll be all right. You'll get that Jordan rookie back.
You will, and that feeling is really cool. It's really, I've done that,
right?
And people like, but that sense of accomplishment. Again, I've said it before, but like, you can't have all the cards, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, and having a great collection by yourself isn't that fun.
Nope.
So having the stories and the giving and the getting back and the work, like that's as much of it as having the physical item.
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
And the more people start to understand that, the more fun it gets.
Right.
And the more loosely you can hold on to something, you can give it to that kid, or instead of just. And we all feel it. We all collect, and we're hoarders in a way. But it's like I put together the Tyler Eulis Rainbow Prism Rookie Year. And that one Eulis is the one you need. Like, dude, it is coming here. It is coming here. But, like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I
guess the last thing, since I know people are going to start knocking at the doors, is anything that you want to say, just a final word about your shop or you or the hobby, just complete free form.
Yeah. I just think
you would want to end it up on.
I really think as far as our business goes, our store, we just want our recipe. People will, instead of sending me a 2-page letter about you want to open a store and what are some tips, these are the tips for opening a card shop if that's what you want to do. And it's treat people with kindness and work hard. If you do those two things, you'll be fine. If you get away from that, or you start if you start being egotistical and wanting to be better than this guy, or it's all problems. You gotta keep focused. You gotta stay in your lane. Don't worry about the horse next to you. Put your blinders on and go to work. That's essentially it. I'm living my dream. I'm telling you, if you're out there and you think, oh, I'd love to do this, the proof is in the pudding. Do you really want to do it? It's easy to say it. It's another thing to be up here at 7 a.m. every morning doing your thing. And if you do, man, I'll be one of the first ones here to try to help you when I can, because I just have a lot of passion for people who chase down their dreams. So that's essentially it.
That's the best. I want to end on this. It's cool because he practices what he preaches. And yesterday we were opening this case of Prism, and I'm nervous because it's expensive. And my man comes out and he says, "This is from the guys in the back and me," and he gives us a free box of Prism. Hobby. It's a $600 box. That is not something that I've ever, like, I know some owners now, some of the guys I've interviewed that are like RBI and all those guys I've met that are the best. you don't meet a lot of people that hand you a $600 box or run a business for free, kind of like what he was saying. And it's really cool because then out of that box comes yesterday this Zion Red, this beautiful center thing. I'll lose my mind. I'll go back there. I almost ankle tackled Smoking Joe in the back. Like it, but that memory never leaves.
Right.
Like that kindness never leaves. Now what is that going to lead to between us? A lot. I can tell you that. Like, let's get ready. It's locker room time at Rupp. And things like that. And there's one thing, like he said, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. And it will come back tenfold to him. And I just can't stress enough that that is what leads to success. So, man, thank you.
I appreciate it, man.
This was awesome. I know people will dig it. And by the way, side note, I love watching you. Is it Dumb Mentality on Twitter going back and forth? Is somebody
Who is it?
Somebody you all got on Twitter go back and forth, and it is hysterical. You all just rag on each other all the time. It's really funny. So your handles are Only Grand Slam on Twitter.
Yep.
Grand Slam Collectibles on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Facebook, it's
Grand Slam Collectibles.
Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
That's right.
And if you can do business with this man, do business with this man. It is the right thing.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all, and see you somewhere else in the country soon. Much love. What's up, y'all? I just wanted to make sure I showed you this shot, which is really cool. Sorry, I go to the only department store in America that doesn't have an electric razor, so I'm a little scruffy. But I wanted to show you Nate's shop, which is amazing. All the supplies and stuff. And I like because they have movie stuff as well as sports stuff and things like that. But I'm just going to flip this around and show y'all. Oh, now I can't flip it around. So I'll do it like this. So, all the supplies, of course. This is actually, somebody's asking about his bike. I think Eddie was on live. That is his bike. And he says he still breaks it out and rides it sometime. That is awesome. It's already sold, the Rocky 4. These are all signed jerseys, which I love these. Signed helmets. Look at the Kobe shoe. That's unbelievable. Sorry, doing this backwards is a little difficult. Florida, Rudy. That's great from Rocky 4. I definitely remember that. These are special. These portrait autographs, and he's got Brady and Jordan. Unbelievable. And this is a great one. This is like my childhood. This might end up going home with me. Bo, Tecmo Bowl touchdown screenshot. Unbelievable. And then come down here. I guess they opened a couple boxes of Flawless. Good gracious. That is a lot. This is his personal case. His Joey Votto's. His comic books he loved. Obviously Rudy. Different things like that are incredible. I love the Ric Flair. He said he had Ric Flair in here for a signing. And then the wax is amazing. This is what we all got into yesterday. And the helmets. Great old, like, it's everything. Great singles. Great sealed baseball card exchange boxes. Some of the old, beautiful stuff. And then you got great singles here. Just like to give everybody an idea of these places when we're on the road and we're filming these things, how extensive some of these shops are. Look at that. Ja, Zon, AD. Look at that Zon gold vinyl. That's beautiful. You're seeing all our stuff. Vintage. You name it. All that great stuff. So it was awesome. And I just had to show you all this. Because it's a great place. And if you're ever in Nashville or near it, it's about 20 minutes outside Nashville. It is absolutely worth the drive. I'm coming here. It's like Bluebird Cafe, Ryman Auditorium, and Grand Slam Collectibles. That's my Nashville trips from here on out. All right. I will see you all later.